man of iron tore the spirit to achieve. With calloused hands they mold the molten flow. Their faces etched with sweat, their hearts aglow. Industrial souls forged in fire. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Industrial Souls. This week, my guest is Moby Hayat from Gorilla 76. He is an expert in the area of paid ads. So we're going to hear his backstory. We're going to talk about paid ads for industrial companies. He's going to have some excellent nuggets to share there. And we are going to bond on mustaches and facial hair. So hang on, because things are about to get industrial. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Thanks Moby for joining us. How you doing out there?
I'm good. I was very aggressively nodding my head with the music. That was great. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, wow, that's some good custom work.
Gotta just kind of like juice up the amperage a little bit to get it started, right?
I hear that.
Hey, if you're watching out there in LinkedIn land or YouTube or wherever you might be watching this, you actually, if you're live, can comment and participate in the discussion. So I would ask you to join in with any questions you have, any comments you have. If you want beard tips, just let us know. If you have a question about running your paid LinkedIn campaigns, throw them in there. We'd love to hear from you. We have lots of stuff to talk about, but if you participate out there, it just increases the fun level. So why would you not, right? So I just want to start out with that. And Moby, again, thank you for joining us. What I typically do whenever I have a guest on, just so that people can get to know my guests, because even though your bearded reputation precedes you, and that's obvious to everybody, we may not all know your story. So usually my first question is, and it is to you today, tell us your story.
Yeah, let's go. So I'll give a quick one and then jump in, cut through, ask questions.
Doesn't have to be quick. We're not in a rush here, bro.
I hear that. Born and raised in Pakistan. That's where my entire family is. I grew up there. I did not expect to land in the U.S. I never expected to study in the U.S. or eventually have a green card, or as of last week, become a citizen. And I'm like, whoa, what is happening in my life?
Wait a minute. I am going to press pause. I saw that. I didn't even mention it before when we were just talking, but congratulations. That is actually a major accomplishment in whatever country you're in. So that's congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you know this.
We're doing citizenship right now. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a journey. Do they have to interview you over there too?
No, you have to pass some tests, but there's no interview.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I just passed the test, and that was after 14, 15 years here, but I sort of came to the U.S. by accident, where I thought I was going to grow up and, like my dad, become a doctor. That's what he wanted me to do.
Okay.
But a month before the MCAT, which is right after high school, I realized I'm not studying. You're supposed to study for the MCAT. I'm like, I haven't opened a book. I don't care. And then from there, it started the journey of like, all right, what do I do with my life? I applied to one university in Pakistan, didn't get in. So I was like, okay, the U.S. it is. And applied to 4 or 5 schools in the U.S. public, because they take international students in the spring.
Okay.
Got in, and I was like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing. My parents said, that's what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And I got to the U.S.
Now, did you learn English in Pakistan, or did you have to learn it when you got here?
All English in Pakistan. Every language, every class outside of our mother language, which was Urdu, was taught in English. So it was all, I grew up writing, reading, not speaking as much, but pretty much all educated in English.
Okay, so very familiar with it. And what did you take in college again?
In college, I studied economics, which did not serve me at all. I did try to do a computer science major, but I picked it up in my junior year, so I couldn't finish it in time. So I had a minor, and I used it to get a job because you have to get a work visa to stay in this country. And
Yeah,
I got a job at Dell, and I started in engineering operations, but luckily worked out. I literally got a job, which was very lucky. They offered me a full-time job, and then I won the U.S. work visa lottery.
that's awesome.
Literally a lottery. And I was like, oh,
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm doing in my life now.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that happened to some friends of ours too. So people do actually win it. But yeah, that's great. It's only a very small amount of people out of the, I don't know, millions or whatever who are applying actually win. So that's actually, yeah, that's,
And it gets harder every year for people.
yeah, it does. Yeah. So cool. Well, that's awesome. So then from there, how did you get into, what was your journey into that landed you in paid ads?
Yeah. So I was in engineering operations for a long time in my first job. I loved the team. I did not like what I did, but unfortunately, I was kind of legally stuck where I was still waiting on a green card. There were times when I had not applied for a green card and I couldn't change jobs. I couldn't change companies unless I went through a whole new process. And that was just 5, 6 years of me doing that job and not being able to legally start a business or change jobs easily. If I had a business outside of the job and I made $1, I'd be kicked out of the country because that's illegal. So I spent 5 years just basically doing the job. And I even started a podcast in 2016 just to kind of pass the time. Did a master's, and I realized,
Nice.
oh, I really like marketing because the idea of somebody has an idea that they want to work on and they have a passion for it, for building it, but they don't know how to promote it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's where I really got into marketing. After I got the green card at Dell, I joined a startup that failed in 4 months, and we all got laid off during COVID. And then from there, I did a lot of freelancing for 3 years. Worked with the U.S. State Department. I did a bunch of small online events. I did a bunch of content editing, content consulting, cold email, and really in the last few years, I went really into ads. And can I share the story of how I got the exact moment I got into ads?
No.
Okay, I got it.
Hell yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, I want to get into ads, but I don't have anybody to practice on. And I also taught practice. So I was in Pakistan a few months after my wedding. And I called my uncle who had a clinic in Chicago. And I said, I want to do this. Can I do this for free for you? He's like, fine. And I flew over there. And I remember we had spent $300. And this is my first Facebook ads. And somebody bought $3,500 worth of stuff.
Nice.
I'm like, what? Well, I don't have to make content 7 days a week. I don't have to do this. This is amazing. And that's what really clicked for me, which is like, this is interesting. It seems to work. And I really want to figure out how to make this work even more. So long story short, engineering, operations, startup world, VC, and then a lot of marketing freelancing. But like 10 years later, after starting my career, I'm like, paid ads it is.
Nice. Yeah, you kind of see the opportunity of a little money multiplier. Put money in here, turn the knobs the right way, more money comes out the other side. That's an awesome business model.
Hopefully it works that way. Sometimes it takes a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's how you get your expertise, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So in a world that's more and more automated, do you find like there's any way to keep paid advertising more human centric? How would you humanize your approach to paid advertising? Is there a way to?
I think at the core of it, that's exactly what it is. Outside of the numbers that have really come into play over the last 20, 30 years with performance marketing. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is saying, we have this group of people that we think want our stuff. And what we want to do is figure out what do we say to these people that makes them in B2C want our stuff right now or soon, or in B2B, whenever they have a problem that our stuff helps them solve for. how do we make them consider us as a legit vendor in that space? That's it. And it's literally about the pains that people face on an everyday basis, the challenges they have that make them either have a difficult time at their work, or they need something to succeed so they get a promotion and maybe get more money so they can buy a home for their family or whatever that is. At the end of the day, advertising is just messaging at scale, and that always comes down to trying to figure out what the right thing to say to people is based on their problems and their desires.
So that sounds like there's kind of a storytelling role in your strategic approach to advertising, let's say.
Absolutely. I'd say I really enjoyed Gorilla's process, which is starting with customer interviews, just asking people, hey, what's your life like? What's your day like? What's your problem? If you were to choose this vendor, why does it work? If you were not to choose this vendor, why would you not do that? And just taking 3, 5, 6, 7 of them and trying to figure out, do we see any themes here? Are there specific phrases that people are always attracted to? Can we test 4 to 5 different headlines and just figure out like, hey, what do we say to these people that makes them be like, I'm going to vote that this message is resonating with me by clicking on it.
Right. So yeah, that's super cool. Like you're really working on trying to personalize it, get inside these people's heads, kind of appeal to their emotions and reach them where they're really at, more or less.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So one time I saw a post, or maybe it was a video, I think you talked about somebody who spent a large amount of money, like 30 grand or something like that on LinkedIn ads. And it was kind of a waste of money. And I'm sure there's a lot of companies out there who have tried ads, you know, that whole, we've already tried marketing. All right. So specifically to the world of ads, I mean, what do you say to somebody who says, we tried ads?
Yeah. We tried ads and it didn't work. And unfortunately, that's a very, very common story. And how I like to think about it on a high level is advertising is basically the act of telling more and more people that you exist and reminding them that you exist.
Right.
As over the last 30, 40 years, it's gone from newspapers to billboards to TV, radio, podcasts, and now all social media platforms, all websites. So it's not that what you're doing on a high level has changed and says, we're not doing something different as compared to 50 years ago. We're still telling people we exist. Please give us money so we can solve our problem.
Right.
What's become harder, especially now in the last 10 years, is the ad platforms are complex. And now there's no single advertising strategy. Maybe a while ago, you could have said, let's do these 3 things, radio, TV, newspaper, and we're going to get in front of our audience. And now it's like, well, do we do Google ads? Do we do LinkedIn? Do we do TikTok? Do we do now OpenAI? Do we do this? What kind of messaging do we have? What kind of campaign objective do we have? And that all makes it super complicated. I duplicated somebody's ad a week ago, and I realized every single time I do that, I have 7 options just for duplicating an ad on what to change outside of copy and creative, like small things like multi-advertising, attribution setting, text optimization, creative optimization. I'm like, wow, this is super annoying. And so it's become complex. So combining the fact that we're still doing the same thing, the fact that it's become complex, it comes down to what is your actual strategy within the platform and why are you choosing that platform, even if it makes sense.
So on that note, talking about strategies relative to platforms, on the platform of LinkedIn, and if you're an industrial company, which our audience is predominantly industrially based, what would you say is a good strategic approach? And I know this is a huge question, but I'm just throwing it out there. For industrial companies on LinkedIn considering advertising, what are some strategic things they need to keep in mind?
Yeah. I think one of the questions they have to answer is, why are you doing LinkedIn ads in the first place? So even taking a step back, there's platforms. I would bunch LinkedIn in one section, Google in one section, and then TikTok and Meta in one section. And you have to decide which one you're going to go to. A Meta is the best for cheap impressions and a lot of volume of leads, but people don't have a lot of intent because I'm not going to buy something industrial off of
Right.
Meta. I might get awareness from it, which works,
Right.
but targeting is hard. So that's why some people don't go towards Meta. On Google, the idea is whoever's currently searching for what I have to offer, which might be 1% of the market, 2% of the market, I want to get in front of them and show my messaging right now. But
Right.
98% of the market is not searching right now. So even if you get a few leads and actually close business, you're still ignoring the 98% of people who are not searching right now or not in the market right now. The justification for spending on LinkedIn, because it is much, much, much more targeted. I can target all super detailed, but then it is legitimately 2 to 20 times more expensive in terms of how much it costs you to deliver an ad. Yeah, you're smiling, you know that. I'd say it makes sense when, number one, you have a very, very defined audience that you want to target.
Right.
And number two, you are going in with the expectation that you might get some leads right away, first 2-3 weeks, first 2 months. But the majority of ROI from your LinkedIn ads is going to be after you've educated this market, which might not know you exist, then they start becoming inbound leads over time. If that is true, that you have the budget to actually spend some, you want to go after a certain target market. And number three, you know that you're proactively educating the market and building awareness so that they come to you, then it's fine to run LinkedIn ads. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah, because it's too expensive to play around with, maybe.
It can get very expensive. And that story is just one of probably tens of thousands of horror stories on LinkedIn or other platforms.
Yeah. Well, LinkedIn in general is just expensive. I think they know they have a target or captive business-oriented market. But so in your strategy there, you kind of laid out educate, kind of like brand building, educating, converting as a kind of almost a little mini advertising buyer's journey that you're walking the people through. So do you map that out in LinkedIn through ads in some way, like different ads for different stages in that buyer's journey, or what? How does that, a little more tactically or granular, how does that work?
Absolutely. So I'll talk about it in terms of sort of a campaign map. I admit the idea of a bottom of funnel, a middle of funnel, I don't prescribe to it fully because people are different. Of course, there's some value of awareness versus driving people to call of action.
Right.
But I like to think of it, and I think Gorilla has done a great job of like segmenting this into me. And this is also, I'm coming from a bias of demand gen, not necessarily lead gen on LinkedIn. So I have a bias, but I think of it as if we've got an audience that we can really identify and build on for job titles, with functions, with seniority, then my job is to educate them at scale. And that is going to be done through cold ads that we're delivering to 50% of that audience, 50,000. And I am assuming 20 to 30% of them are going to see my ads every single month. Because some people log in, some people might not. And in there, I want to show them different messaging buckets, like more brand, right? Which is who you are, what you do, what your story is. Unique value proposition, which is in the best of cases, headlines and copy derived from customer interviews that you learned that they care about, showing that social proof, which is case studies and testimonials, quantifiable metric, which might be similar before and after. And the goal is to spend 90% of your budget in that bucket. And once people start clicking, people come to your website, people go to your LinkedIn page, they engage with you because they're now aware. They're like, oh, that's interesting. You retarget everybody who's clicked on those ads or come to your website with more bottom of the funnel, hey, inviting them to a meeting conversation. I've seen that simple structure with messaging buckets and cold versus warm work really well. And it is very rare that we depart from that.
So it's just kind of like two phases. One is the different levels of messaging, both brand, education, selling points, unique value propositions, social proof, is all in one big bucket, the 90% bucket. And then you have the 10% bucket of this guy is interested on some level. Let's get him to take action.
Yeah.
That's it. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yeah. And the way you say it, like it is simple It's not rocket science. It's just not easy to execute and easy to adjust if some things don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you gauge that, I guess, like if you're working with some customer and
Yeah.
how are you gauging, I guess, what makes you say this is working and this isn't working, I guess?
Great question. So I'd say the first question to answer, which is always the toughest, and we have to do it every few weeks in the start, if not every week, which is, are we reaching the right people? And that's the question of before you even start running ads is building that specific audience in LinkedIn through job titles or job functions or an account list, and just having a conversation with somebody like, are these the right people? Are these the people we want to do business with? And in that, looking at some qualitative metrics, like if we're targeting 70 companies and that's a 10,000 person list, that not enough people in that market might be ready to buy soon. And so you might get 3 leads a year, which is great if you're selling something for 50K, but then you're not giving your ads enough of a chance to reach more people. So you have to look at, are these the right people? Is the audience big enough that I can run ads and expect some leads in the next 3 to 12 months? That's number one. Number two, when you do set up the ads and 2 to 3 weeks in, just looking at 2 things. Number one, I'd say, who's seeing these ads? Because in LinkedIn, they allow you to stock who's seeing your ads, like what job functions see your ads, what job titles, what companies, what locations, what seniority. And you can be like, are we right? Is this the people we want to be showing these ads? We're like, okay, cool. That's qualitative. Then we go into quantitative, which I love. Like one of my favorite things to do is if somebody says, can you take a look at my ads? I'm like, yes, show me your campaign manager. Is if you're running brand awareness, which is 1 out of 6, 7 objectives on LinkedIn, do people care? And the easiest way to figure that out is if you're showing them ads, even if you're testing different headlines, a great metric is CTR, click-through rate. And on LinkedIn, industry average is 0.3, 0.4, I don't know. But if your CTR is 0.5 on a specific headline or a specific ad, that means 1 out of 200 people clicked on it. And that is, even though that doesn't sound like a lot, that is a good indication of people resonate with this. If I think I said these exact words to somebody 3 months ago, and now it's been proven true, which is we just launched their first ads, and I said, we're getting 0.8, 0.9% click-through rate on very specific things. We now know what your market cares about. But number two, if this continues and we retarget, I expect you to get an influx of leads every single time you come up with new ads, because people seem to resonate with this. They're like clicking through and learning, and that turned out to be true. So I'd say how to see if it works. Number one, you figure out the right audience. Number two, you figure out, is this still the right audience after you start? And number three, you look at CTR. You also look at CPM, which is like how much it costs you to deliver 1,000 impressions, and see if it's above 80, you're like, oh my God, do I need to adjust something? But those are the high level early indications I'll look for on platform.
Okay. Wow. That was very good. That was a super thorough answer. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is a complete change into a different direction. But I found this rare picture that I didn't know existed of you and I together. Did you know there's a picture of us?
No, I did not. That's that's pretty good. That was very good.
Yeah. Like, I mean, who knew that was out there? Like, it's just out there.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I was just joking for TV land out there. I was just joking with Moby earlier because he inspired me to grow the stash out.
Yeah, like it's, you know what's funny? I've had his mustache for a long time, but I only learned how to properly sort of take care of it like 2 years ago, and how to cut it so it does stick out. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
We should do an episode on that because I want to learn from you. Yeah.
Get it sponsored by a beard brand or something.
I actually grew mine in the curly Q at one point in time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm blessed in that my facial hair grows, and my head hair actually too grows extremely fast. So it needs to cut all the time. But yeah, it grows pretty long, and as you can see, pretty fast. So what? Back to our show. What is it about industry marketing, LinkedIn, ads. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, but
Yeah.
that really gets you, I guess, excited. I can tell you're passionate about this. So, what is, I guess, you think the thing that makes you the most passionate about doing
Yeah.
this kind of work that elicits that response from you?
Yeah. So
What
there's
do you love
definitely
about it?
there's definitely a part which I love about ads, and then also a part where it is completely and utterly a means to an end, and in life. So I'll talk about that. But for ads, I just like the fact that it is, and selfishly, there is a barrier to entry, which I had to learn. Like, I've messed up a lot of ads in my life, and I've had to learn. And so I like the fact that as a profession, right now it's got some barrier to entry, and it's hard to do well, and that makes me feel good about myself, admittedly. And I do really like trying to figure out and looking at numbers and being like, "Ooh, how does this work?" And, "Ooh, CTR, ooh, CPM," and like thinking through it. It's just it makes me feel good to
Yeah.
look at an account. And I audited somebody's account. They had spent 140 in 3 months, 140K in 3 months, and I was like, this is fantastic. If I could do this all day and just give audits, I'd love this. So I love that part of looking at what's working, what's not working, auditing strategy, and defining, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this thing. Like I told that one client, you're spending 98% of your budget on the wrong thing. Please
Right.
don't do that. And then number two, it took me a long time to feel settled in the US. It took me a long time to find something that I felt as just a person like I was good at. That was my own lane.
Right.
And I like paid ads, and I work remotely, and my family's back home in Pakistan. For me, paid ads, whether I'm doing it right now through Gorilla and some freelancing, or maybe even doing my own agency down the line or freelancing full time, I can do it anywhere in the world. It's high leverage work where I can put in an hour and get a lot of results for somebody else. If need be, I can be more with my family and not spend all my time doing XYZ. So I'm really, really happy that I got here, and it was a complete accident. But it's really, I love the paid ads work, but I also see this as a means to a good life.
Yeah. The end is important, obviously, but it does seem like, though, you enjoy the kind of learning, solving problems, challenge, that comes up a lot. A lot of people who I talk to just really love the applying their unique niche learning to solving problems for other people. And there's like a certain joy in just using those gifts and talents that are built into you that that you already have in you to help other people.
I hear that. Yes.
So is the rest of your family still back in Pakistan?
Yes. Everybody except me and my wife are here.
Yeah. So do you get to see them often? Is it hard being so far away from them, or do you get to go back pretty often?
It's hard to be that far away. And I luckily see them often. Well, for somebody living in a very different part of the world, like twice a year, that's where I go. It's a long
It's not
flight.
too bad.
Yeah, it's long. It's a very expensive flight, but I do it every
Mhm.
single time. Like, so it is one of my favorite things. When the week is coming where I have to travel, I'm like, let's go. And the day before, I give up on life. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm going back home. It'll be great.
Yeah.
And so I really, really, really like going there.
Yeah, I bet. And it's good. Getting back a couple times a year actually isn't too bad. We usually don't even get back every year to the States, but a couple times a year is pretty nice. So that's good that you're able to do that, and that your expertise and all of that enables you to have a life where you can still be here, be where you are. I keep saying be here, but I'm not where you are either, but be where you are and do what you love and still be able to see your family and all of those great things. Those are great. So deep down inside, I guess, when things are hard, the thing that really keeps you going and pushes you through all the challenges that you've overcome. Okay, so you're just telling your story like, this is my story, da 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 da. But the things that you have done are actually super hard. People I don't think, realize how difficult it is to leave a country, go to another country, get plugged in, go to college, succeed, to dot all the I's that are necessary, like legally and governmentally and all the ridiculous red tape and visas and getting citizenship, which you got, and all of those things. That's not just I just did that. That's like that's a monumental undertaking. So I know that wasn't just easy. That was hard, and there was something in you, that said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep going." What do you think it is?
Yeah. First off, I appreciate that. That's very nice to say. Part of it is definitely luck. Winning the lottery, literally winning the lottery for that.
Yeah.
I remember I was visiting New York. This is mid 2010s. And I was in a boat with some friends, and I get an email from the law firm. And they're like, "Oh, we're not able to renew your work visa because immigration laws have changed, and you can no longer live in the U.S." I'm like, "What?" And I emailed them and I was like, "Hey, I have a master's. Does that help?" They're like, "Yeah." And the master's that I was doing kind of to pass the time kind of worked in my favor. So there's a lot of work there too, but luck there too. Honestly, I don't know. There was 4 years where I was like, 4 years ago, I was trying to figure out what makes people have grit.
Yeah.
And like, I see this in a lot of immigrants, which is it's not necessarily grit. I think that's assigning something which is a great value, but sometimes it's just feeling like you have no choice. Like for the last 10 years in my life, when I have found any area of competence, like paid ads, maybe podcasting at one time, networking at one time, it was because I sucked at other things and I was just following my competence. And I felt like I had no other option than to try my hardest. That's what the majority of it feels like. Even to this day, to me and my closest friends somehow are very international from different countries. And one of my friends, we hang out every Saturday at a coffee shop, and he's working and I'm working. And we both look at each other. We're like, "Why do we do this? Are we masochistic? Like what?" We're like, we cannot get over this immigrant guilt. If I don't work in a day, I feel horrible about myself, and I'm like, I am destroying something. So guilt. Let's say that.
Immigrant guilt. That's
Immigrant
so funny.
It's a thing.
No, dude, do not feel immigrant guilt. I would say, dude, from an American Native person's perspective, but also another expat perspective, you have overcome a lot of challenges. You have, made your way. You are providing value. You have what I would say, you have made it as a somebody who has a dream of coming somewhere and functioning and doing it. I look at my kids, like my daughter, she, came into this country where I live, Portugal, and doesn't speak the language, learns the language, goes to art school, goes to college, passes, does all this stuff, and now is remotely doing concept art for video game companies. But and that was her dream, and I look at her and I'm proud, and I say, okay, you made it. You overcame all these obstacles were in your way that you didn't put there, and you overcame them. And when I look at you, and I don't mean to be condescending, like comparing you to my kid, but like when I look at you, I see the same thing. I see that kind of like drive to do something well, to achieve, passion for what you're doing. And, I do recognize that you have accomplished a lot of things. So I would say to you, congratulations and well done. You have, I'm proud of you, if I could say that like in a dadly way, of what you have, overcome in order to just plant yourself in another country and achieve life objectives and start your little family and go back and see your previous, your own family, and all of that is a great accomplishment. So I pat you on the back for it. If no one else
appreciate
does
that. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah. Just to wrap the show up, like if somebody wants to learn more about you or find you out there, work with Gorilla or work with you individually, where do they go? Where would you see
LinkedIn? It is LinkedIn. If you search Moby Hayat, I'm the guy with the blue background. Yeah.
The only one with the blue background is Moby.
only person with the blue background. But Moby Hayat, Moby might pop it up. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn too much.
Yeah. It's a little addicting, and you're working in it. So yeah, you probably can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Moby, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. You've been a great guest. It's been a super fun convo.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
All right. Everybody else out there, tune in next time. We'll see you out there in LinkedIn land.